Hi, this is Celeste with the Celeste Report. And today I am hopefully, God willing, going to have Sheriff Mack on. Sometimes Sheriff Mack runs a little bit late because he does a number of interviews together. I have been there and done that, and it's not a precise science. So I guess while we're waiting for Sheriff Mack to pop on, do you have any questions? You can type them in the chat right now, but as soon as Sheriff Mack pops in, we will we will cut over to him. But if you have a question in the meantime, we are going to be talking about the deportation issue, the critical how critical it is when we vote that we vote in constitutional sheriffs, and a little bit about the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. And anybody have questions or anything at this early date or time, actually? Okay, I don't have, you know, I guess we'll just sit here and chill for a few minutes. If you want to pop a question into the chat, I am here, and we'll just see if Sheriff Mack is going to be able to connect. So, oh, there he is. So let me add him.
Let me see where I am. Okay, well, there you are. There I am. So,
And we're live. So we've been waiting for a minute. I've been just talking my way through. I kind of introduced you before you arrived.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Nice to see you again,
I
Sheriff
had a hard
Mack.
time finding yours because I had several in the same place. I go, which one? So anyway,
You're here.
I'm really happy to be back with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, of course, what we would all love to know, because I don't know about in your world because you know more, I cover lots of different wheelhouses, is what is the status on the deportation and what is the sheriff's role in the current deportation situation? I guess the reason I'm concerned is we saw the big flu flaw in Minnesota, and then everything kind of went quiet as in the news.
Well, I think the best answer to that is the tale of two sheriffs, or the tale of two states. Okay, so let's look what's happening in, let's say, Florida.
Okay.
Okay, all 67 sheriffs in Florida met with Governor DeSantis about 8-9 months ago, and they all agreed. Democrat sheriffs, liberal Democrat sheriffs, uh, some sheriffs that are very moderate Republicans, all of them, staunch conservatives, all met and decided that it was their responsibility to help get these criminals out of their state and out of their counties. All 67 are participating and helping. Are they still having protests? Yes. Are they peaceful? Yes. Are the sheriffs helping with deportation? Yes. And it's all working out fine. The people are safe, the agents are safe, and the agents are doing their job. Now, let's compare that to Minnesota.
Okay.
The governor's not supportive. The mayor of Minneapolis is not supportive. The chief of police of Minneapolis is not supportive. They're not helping. And some of those Democrat leaders, quote, leaders, have actually encouraged people to be violent, to be obstinate, to be belligerent, to get in their face, to never comply with anything the ICE agents say. That is absolutely inexcusable behavior by a supposed leader. This is the Democrats taking Trump derangement syndrome to the next level that absolutely has now become criminal. And these traitors and these crooks should be charged criminally. And that has already been suggested. And the AG of Minnesota is also culpable in all of this. You would think that leaders would say, look, show me one Democrat. And I can, I guess, sort of show one. Isn't it crazy, Celeste, that Senator Fetterman is the voice of reason for Democrats?
Yep.
That's absolutely astonishing. But God bless him for it. At least he's being honest. These other Democrats are not being honest. And another one that I'm really surprised about too was Bill Maher. And he's laid it on Democrats pretty strongly. He votes straight Democrat and he's a Democrat. But he says, you guys are messing up big time. And he didn't use the word mess. He used bigger words. So this is the thing. When you have an AG who is supporting the lawlessness in Minnesota, and the governor, of course, supporting lawlessness, and Mayor Frey supporting lawlessness, what do you think's going to happen? And I'm not glad one iota that Renee Good was shot and Preddy. I'm not glad about either one of those. And I spent 20 years in law enforcement, and I prayed every day that I would never have to shoot anybody. And I had a couple of incidents where I probably should have, but I didn't. And now looking back, I'm glad I didn't. But at the same time, on Renee Good's shooting, she was egging it on. She was being very smart aleck, real smart ass, and she was asking for it.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I would not have shot her. Was the officer probably within the protocols and rules of lethal engagement? He probably was, because it's going to be pretty easy for him to prove that she attacked him with an aggravated assault or assault with a deadly weapon. She could easily have been charged with that. However, when it comes to civil torts, I think he might be in trouble, because as soon as the threat happened and he got hit, the threat was over. And there was lots of officers, and they could have still arrested her. Now, in my training in law enforcement, it was called FFF, fleeing forcible felon. Was she a fleeing forcible felon? And yes, she was. But again, as soon as she hit him, she was away from him, and the threat was over. And he should have known that the threat was over and that she couldn't have killed him at that point or struck him again. She struck him, she kept going, and the threat's over. I don't like to play armchair quarterback with any officer in any shooting. I'm just telling you my opinion as to what I saw. I would not have shot her. And we would have all been better off had he not. But Preddy, I don't know. I haven't seen enough evidence. One person was trying to show where he actually went for his gun. I couldn't tell that he did. So I think that one's going to be a difficult case. But I don't like killing anybody. Cops don't like killing anybody. The way the left puts it is that cops wake up in the morning and just hope they get to shoot some black kid that day. That's not true. And race relations between all of us, no matter what the minorities are, and no matter who we deal with during the day, if we could get Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and the NAACP out of the way, we would be getting along just fine. But they want to promote racism because they make money off of it. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is just as bad. Oh, there's all these hate groups out there, and they call me a hate group, and they call me paramilitary and violent, and I've never committed an act of violence in my life. I've never taken my fist and slugged another human being.
Yeah, but
In
they
the 20
consider
years I was in law enforcement, I never beat anybody up, never slugged anybody, never shot anybody, but now they have me as a domestic terrorist. when in fact, a lawyer for Southern Poverty Law Center actually got arrested for domestic terrorism in Atlanta about a year ago. So these liars out there and these people who cannot see the truth and cannot see the necessity of getting along and making peaceful situations in like just like Florida has done. Every state should be trying to copy Florida. Now, does a sheriff have to help with deportation? No, he doesn't. I've had this talk with Tom Homan personally in his office, and because we were suggesting to every sheriff to get involved with helping with deportation. If you want it done safer and more effectively, the sheriff should be involved. He knows the county, he knows where people are, and they should be turning people over to ICE when they're done with their jail sentence, wherever it is. Washington State is horrible. They're actually suing a sheriff who is trying to help with deportation. Why would any sheriff want to get international terrorists, the cartels, Tren de Aragua gangbangers, human traffickers, including sexual exploitation, trafficking of children into international slave trade markets, and get those people out and save those children and help them? Why would any sheriff want to do that? Because this is the worst criminal element that could possibly be in their counties, and it was brought in by the Democrat Party and the Biden administration. I'm going to be honest with you. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing a book about that. And I have a co-author, and the problem is we're getting too much information. The book could be too big because there's so much treason that has been committed by the Democrat Party and the Biden administration. And folks, why do you think they brought all these illegal aliens into our country? Why? One reason: politics. Because they want a monopoly on political power from Hawaii to Bangor, Maine. And that is why they got them here, so that they could get registered. How do we know that? Because they're doing everything, even right now, to get these people registered to vote. And they don't want anybody to have to show identification. Nobody. And they want people to be able to register the very day of voting. So that means any stranger, any foreigner that's here on vacation or just here illegally, or no matter how they're here, you could be somebody from Argentina here on vacation, go into a New York polling place, register to vote because you don't have to show any ID, vote right then, go back to Argentina the next day and brag about it to the local newspaper there, and there's not a dang thing we could do about it. That's the election fraud. That's the epitome of election fraud. It's the epitome of criminal voting. And these people are just fine with it. And you Democrats, there's a lot of good Democrats out there. And you Democrats are going to reelect these people? My goodness, how could you do that? Look at the criminal element they brought into our country. Look at the treason they committed to bring these people in and get them registered to vote. And it also helps with the census, which increases Democrat positions in Congress. Folks.
Yeah, and they get lots of benefits when they do that.
This is just wrong, and it's evil. And I believe that the Democrat Party the members of the Democrat Party should take care of this themselves. But I also believe that everyone involved in this should be investigated criminally.
So let's go back to Minnesota for a minute. Okay. So we know, you laid out the landscape for us, and most of us already know it, the governor and the mayor and everybody. So are there constitutional sheriffs, and what could a constitutional sheriff that is part of your organization, constitutional sheriffs and peace officers, do? What power does he have against these elected political officials in a, let's say, corrupt state?
Well, I have first said that the sheriff should be getting more involved in protecting protesters and ICE agents and have their back, and that they should have a presence at all of those protests. There's no sheriffs there. And so they should be doing their job and getting involved in that. And your other question's even better. Are there good sheriffs in Minnesota? Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Very, very few. There's about 86, 87 sheriffs in Minnesota, if I remember right. I did a tour there 2.5 years ago. And I called a couple of my friends and sheriffs that are part of our organization and have been very friendly to being constitutional sheriffs. I hate to tell you this, but they all refused to go to any of the meetings that we did a complete swing of the state. And I said, you're coming, right? He goes, none of us are coming.
Mm.
And I said, why? He said, because of all the horrible things we've read about you on the internet. And I said, Sheriff, you know me. You know those are lies. He said, we all know they're lies. I said, then what? We don't want them lying about us. We want to get reelected and we want to keep our pensions. And so I said to the sheriff, I said, I thought you were a bigger man than that. And I said, you're willing to compromise the liberty of the people you work for and that put you into office. You're willing to compromise their liberty and their safety for your pension. And nothing. Crickets. So I guess he was ashamed. I don't know. But there still are some good sheriffs there. But they're kind of the outer areas away from Minneapolis. And I know that they would get involved. But this is where the people come in. Folks, the people of Minnesota have got to get a hold of their sheriffs and say, are you going to stand or are you going to be another wimp politician when it comes to keeping the peace and protecting us? Because every citizen in this county of yours deserves to be protected and deserves to be safe. And you promised us in God's name that you would uphold, protect, and defend the United States Constitution. Will you keep that oath or not? And folks, all across this country, that needs to happen. Washington State's even worse than Minnesota. Yes. Because they're trying to get rid of sheriffs. Minnesota's not trying to get rid of sheriffs. Minnesota is, and they already have. And so every place you go with these Democrat woke leaders, they're destroying your state. They're destroying the office of sheriff. They're stealing the stewardship of the people and making it to where they appoint sheriffs or get rid of them altogether. Folks, the sheriff is appointed by you, of, by, and for the people, just as Lincoln warned us that it should be. And Lincoln was even saying then that government by, for, and of the people shall not perish from the earth. Folks, it's perishing. It's disappearing. It's leaving. And we have got to be vigilant. Jefferson warned us that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. He was talking to us, to you and me. We have to be involved or we are not going to save America. We're not going to get this turned around. Trump's doing everything he can. Are we doing everything we can now to have his back and to make sure that we're taking back our country county by county? So the bottom line is no sheriff can be forced to help with deportation. No sheriff can be forced not to. And who should he be hearing from? Right now, in Minnesota, the sheriff should be hearing from their constituents. My dear friends and the people of Minnesota, you have got to get a hold of your sheriff, make the calls, make the emails, invite him to your neighborhood meeting. Just go by and ask to see him. You'll probably end up seeing him, a lieutenant or a captain. You might get the sheriff in a smaller department. Tell them what you want. And what we want you to do is join us. The CSPOA is for you. It's for your protection. It's for your liberty, so that sheriffs and deputies all across this country will be protecting your civil rights. Wouldn't that be great to have the sheriffs across this country and the deputies and peace officers to know and understand that their duty is to protect your civil rights? That's what we're about. And you are where we get our funding. So it's $11 a month to be a member of the CSPOA. We train you every Wednesday in our posse training webinar every Wednesday. And this is how we bless each other and save America. Folks, it's such a great relationship. Law enforcement and sheriffs and we the people, the most powerful part of our country, the most powerful part of our government, we the people, the first three words of our Constitution, we the people. You've got to get involved, and we're offering you that opportunity on a silver platter to be involved in a solution that is both peaceful and effective. We ask you to join this holy cause of liberty.
And that's $11 a month. You can spend that on an espresso. So, it's for freedom in our country.
It would be so
and
easy,
safety.
folks. Just go to our website, cspoa.org. It'll say join the posse. You can do it. It'll be automatically be taken out. And if you want to quit, you can quit anytime. But I don't believe you will. This is not a contract. It's up to you. But I believe you'll see the results start happening. And we've already had them happen. We've had hundreds of sheriffs that refused during COVID-19, that refused to enforce the COVID mandates. Hundreds of them nationwide. Which sheriff do you want in your community? The one in Tampa, Florida that arrested a sheriff for having church? Or the sheriff in New Mexico who defended a pastor who stayed open? And he even said, this sheriff, his name's Sheriff Glenn Hamilton, he deputized every member of Pastor Caleb Cooper's church. And so when the state came to shut him down, he said, I've deputized everybody in that church and you're not shutting us down. And that church is staying open. The state police left and never came back. Yeah.
That's what we need these days.
So, and guess what? Sheriff Hamilton had our training twice.
So I have a question. So when we go to speak with our sheriff on a county to county level, that there's a lot of theater going on, and people will say yes when they mean no. And so, okay, I'm going as Celeste and I'm going to go speak with my sheriff. And I say, are you going to stand with the Constitution and uphold your oath? Mm-hmm. How can I know if he's really doing that or just kind of, smiling and saying, oh yeah, I am going to do it. And then we know that he's going to do the opposite. How is there a way of telling?
Well, yeah, especially if you tell him, well, there's a lot of us that want to be on your posse. Do you have a posse? And maybe he'll say no. And say, can we start trying to organize one? His next yes or no will be telltale.
Okay.
And by the way, when they say, oh, well, the county won't insure us on that, or the county won't let us do that. But then you ask him this, don't you already have a volunteer search and rescue squad? Isn't that a posse? Those are posses.
Yes,
those
are
citizen volunteers, what a posse is.
Yes.
They probably don't call it a posse, but it is one. It is a volunteer group of citizens that provide a very valuable and essential service to the people through the sheriff's office. And so that you can pretty gauge it by that. You pretty much gauge it by that. But then you can ask him, what have you ever done to stand against gun control laws? And what did you do about COVID-19? So you could already start asking him what he's already done to prove himself as a constitutional sheriff. Others might say there might be a humble guy saying, I've never really read the Constitution. I would really like to have this training. And then you say, Sheriff Mack will bring his training to you and at no charge. So let's go, and then that's where we want you to help fund us, pay for everything to get there. But we don't want the sheriff to have to pay anything. We don't want him to use his budget, because then somebody will say, oh no, we don't have the budget for that. If I have to do it for free, I will. But this is where the people really come in, and they help us fund this and pay for my trip out there and supplies and everything else. If I have to do it alone, I will, because this is essential to American liberty. And if he'll be humble enough to say, yeah, we'd love to have his training. The Constitution for Law Enforcement, from the first sheriff in American history to sue the federal government and win at the U.S. Supreme Court. And this is a copy of the case. And when you go talk to the sheriff, hand him this case and ask him if he's familiar with it. And that, Celeste, brings up another question, doesn't it? Are you familiar with the case that Sheriff Mack won at the U.S. Supreme Court? He'll probably say, yes, I've heard of that. Have you ever read it? Here's your copy. Because he's going to say, no, he's never read it. And then ask him this. Would every sheriff in this country have an obligation to know what that case was about? Because he won at the U.S. Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court agreed with Sheriff Mack for his reasons to sue the Clinton administration. Would not every sheriff in this country be obligated to know what that case was about and comply with its findings?
You would hope so.
Yeah, you would
hope so.
think that every sheriff would be so curious about that. The only time in U.S. history where sheriffs sued the federal government and won a landmark case at the U.S. Supreme Court. So, folks, you can get these. They're on our website. This is a highlighted version of the case that I put together. I spent days and days studying the case on the internet. You can do that too. Maybe you can write your own highlighted version of it. Fine, do it. Whatever it takes to make this simpler and easier for your sheriff to know and understand and get, and say, you know what? I would like to know about that case. Hand him the case and say, and Sheriff Mack will come do the training for you. The Constitution for Law Enforcement Officers. Wow.
So do you also have like a virtual training? Like, let's say your sheriff is, these rural towns, they've maybe got one sheriff or at the most two.
Sheriff and 3 deputies or something.
Yeah. Is there like a virtual training?
Yeah, they can do our training off our website. But if they're really going to get the seminar that we have, I like the face-to-face deal. But yes, we do have it online too.
Okay. Well, that's our marching order. We need to be talking with our sheriffs and joining CSPOA and to help get you the funding so that you can do the face-to-face. There's nothing like face-to-face funding.
There is. There really isn't. I like this because you and I are one-on-one and I can look you in the eye. But when I'm really looking at you now, it doesn't look like I'm looking you in the eye. But I'm looking the camera lens. Now I'm looking you right in the eye, aren't I?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's how I like it, Yeah. But then I can look down and say, oh, Celeste is there. She is paying attention. She's looking at me. But when I do this in person, I want people to know that this is from absolutely my heart and 35 years of experience and spending everything I own and dedicating my life, and my wife dedicating her life to this movement. When she and I decided together, and mostly her, that we were going to take on the Clinton administration and that we were going to fight them no matter what it cost us. And it ended up costing us our career and my job and everything. We left Arizona with the clothes on our back and a little bit of furniture in the U-Haul. It's completely started over. And I'd be proud to do it again. All the miracles that happened because of this case and that brought me to this show right now. If I hadn't done this case, you and I wouldn't be talking right now. And I wouldn't have been to all 50 states. And I wouldn't have written 8 books. And we're writing them, like I told you, we're right in the middle of another big book right now. And so, folks, the miracles happen when you answer the call. And my wife had the guts and the humility and the strength to help me answer the call. She's the one that answered it. She goes, maybe now we know why you were supposed to be sheriff. And that so touched my heart when she said that. And we took this on. And you know what? I was the only sheriff in the entire country doing it until Sheriff Prince joined 6 weeks later. but I didn't know anybody else was going to join. None of the other sheriffs in Arizona wanted to. And so the power of one, but it also proved that one person can take a stand. And then when Prince joined, and it still was percentage wise, it was still one because it was 7 of us out of 3,086. And we won. And we changed American history because there were 5 Brady bills scheduled to be passed. We fought number 1. We beat number 1. But Brady bills 2, 3, 4, and 5 were stopped because of our lawsuit. And it saved the Second Amendment. These 7 sheriffs, the 7 of us, did more to save the Second Amendment than the NRA and all the other gun rights groups have in the last 100 years. We actually saved the Second Amendment. It would have been completely gutted had Brady bills 2, 3, 4, and 5 made it through. And we didn't even know that they existed until our lawsuit started, and we found out that the gun grabbers, the Brady Handgun Control Incorporated people and their lawyers and politicians supporting them, the Clinton administration, were going to do a piecemeal pass one year after the other for 5 years. And at the end of those 5 years, your Second Amendment would have been gone. That was the plan. 7 sheriffs stood up against that, and we won. Now we're asking you to join us in this cause of liberty.
Yeah, they're still trying to chip away at our liberty.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So everyone, we really do need to join the CSPOA and, do our part. $11 a month isn't much. And if you have to give to me or you have to give to Sheriff Mack, give to Sheriff Mack because he's got, this really, truly, the sheriff is standing in between we the people and government that quite frankly right now is there are some good people in government, but much of it is corrupt and rogue at this point, and they need to be held in check. And we've got a big job. We've got an illegal invasion on our hands. We need to get these people out.
And how do we get these people out now? They intentionally did it through their treasonous acts. And now Trump is forced to clean up after them. And so, of course, sheriffs should be helping. Chiefs of police should be helping. But they have to get permission from city council. The sheriff is very independent. And he need your permission? He needs your support. But he doesn't need your permission to go help with this because he swore an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And he's defending the Constitution when he does that. But a lot of them are scared right now because of what's going on in Minnesota, and they need to hear from their constituents. They need to hear from you. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in North Dakota, and I actually went to town when a lot of the activity was going on in Minneapolis, and I saw these very strange vehicles that I've only seen once in my life. That's back in Washington State. And so then I saw some other, lots of law enforcement activity going on. This is in Bismarck, North Dakota. Yeah. And sure enough, I hadn't heard anything. So I came home and I looked it up, and sure enough, what was going on in Minneapolis was spilling over into North Dakota. So don't think that it's just isolated to Washington State or Minnesota.
And we've got some good sheriffs in North Dakota. We got really good sheriffs there.
Yeah. So. Yeah. There's some good people, but there's the cities seem to attract these flaming liberals. I don't know why, but they do. And so we have to be ever vigilant.
Too. They just need a little kick in the butt from their constituents.
That's it. And so we need to hold them accountable. Yes. And so that's the message Sheriff Mack is bringing to you today. And I do hope and pray that you do join the CSPOA today and support this vigilant work.
Folks, we can't do this alone, and we need you. And I'll close with this from the last sentence of the Declaration of Independence. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Folks, we must do likewise today.
God bless you, Sheriff Mack, and may he keep you safe and all the sheriffs safe as well.
Thank you, Celeste. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye.